The Nike Pegasus Turbo Plus versus the Adidas Boston 12. Both highly regarded shoes for their respective brands, but which one is the better daily trainer? Let's talk about them. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're ready to subscribe, watching content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes respectively up here somewhere. And we'll kick off with the older of the two shoes, which is the Boston 12. It's at least over a year old, if I recall. Maybe a year and a half, maybe two. I don't know exactly, but yeah. Basically, this shoe weighs in at about 9.5 ounces. With a heel of about 38 millimeters, forefoot of 31 millimeters, giving it a 7 millimeter offset. So not as high as an 8 millimeter necessarily, but not too neutral where you run into a strange category of not so much daily trainer into more of a neutral, more experienced style of running. Other things to consider is we do have two different styles of foam running across the shoe. We do have like this EVA version that Adidas uses, and we have a Light Strike Pro, which is one of the higher end, or was one of the higher end Adidas foams on the market that was used for that more squish, more responsive style foams that would work in tandem with the thicker, more protective foam with the rubber on the shoe. And in this particular case, it also worked in tandem with the energy rods that were in the shoe. So you can kind of see them in the shoe right there. And yeah, it's supposed to be like the carbon plate sort of replacement technology or testing materials that are kind of used across the shoe. So those carbon rods are pretty cool. They kind of have that like skeletal structure. There's like 3 to 5 rods just kind of running behind each toe. And that kind of gives it a more flexible style responsiveness with the foams of the shoe. In the upper, we do have kind of that thin mesh that's, or thin textile meshy kind of material. And then we have a slightly gusseted tongue. Not too much heel reinforcement, but you don't really need it if you get the lock of this shoe down pretty correctly. So all in all, I think the Adidas Boston 12 is a pretty standard looking shoe. But in terms of performance, there is a lot of good things to be said here. Again, I've praised the Boston 11 to no end. I didn't like the Boston 12 nearly as much as the 11 for various features, but there's a lot of looseness to the shoe, which is good. The overall turnover in the shoe and responsiveness is excellent. I've not had a major issue in this shoe with the at least 300, maybe 350 plus miles I've put in it. I actually don't remember how many I've done. I think I've gotten this to 400 plus if I'm not mistaken. Based on the way the rubber looks, again, there's something to be said about this Continental rubber just being an excellent material to be used alongside the foam of the shoe. It just lasted for so long with barely any serious wear across the shoe. Now, the same can't be said for the Adidas Pro 3, which is the race day version of the shoe, but that's for a different topic, right? But at this stage, like the Boston 12 stands really well as like an all-around great shoe. Now, when we get into the Pegasus Turbo Plus, again, we do have a heel of about 35 millimeters, a forefoot of about 25, giving it a 10 millimeter offset, so a much higher heel sort of effect running across the shoe, which is good for different muscle groups to be used in the middle of your run, right? We do just have some foam sticking out from the shoe, just exposing it in the middle area of the shoe, are 2 foam patches, or 2 rubber patches just in the heel and the forefoot. Pretty straightforward. We do have ZoomX running the entire duration of the shoe with one major caveat, which is there's no carbon plate in this shoe. So the stiffness that you would have otherwise felt in the Boston 12 is sort of missing, and now as a result you get a little bit more flex with not as much, I would say, rebound effect that the energy rods of this shoe would particularly have. Now, there is some snap to this shoe, of course, because ZoomX is such a snappy foam. Just without that carbon plate, you're going to miss a little bit of that oomph, but you're going to have a little bit more of that flexibility. So it really is kind of an apples and oranges comparison, and it is a user preference in terms of what you're looking for in your shoe for your daily runs. Because if you're looking for something stiff, Boston 12 would be my choice between these two, and then the Pegasus Turbo would be more if you're looking for something a little bit more flexible, I guess we would say. And then again, we're running the Flyknit textile on the upper of the shoe. We do have that gusseted tongue, and we just kind of run through regular textiles, and the signature retro pink slash maybe like, I don't know, just hot pink colored stripe going across the shoe resemblant of the 2018-2019 Pegasus Turbo that came out there. So this just pays homage to that shoe, right? So I kind of broke down some of the major differences between both shoes. So if I had to pick one of these two, which direction would I go in? It really does depend on your brand preference. It depends on what you're looking for out of your daily trainer, right? So I'll make the case for the Boston 12, right? If you're looking for a shoe with some kind of plate or plate variant, in this case like energy rods across the shoe, you're looking for something that's going to last a long time because of the foam choices used across the shoe. You're looking for something a little bit loose, not too tight for your foot, and you're looking for something that can be flexible for your easy run, recovery run, maybe a tempo session. You can attempt a threshold in this. The Boston 12 is a pretty good shoe all in all. It just all around has some great features to be used by you that I've enjoyed on this shoe when I had it during my Silverthorne training camp last year. And yeah, it's a shoe that's really reliable, and again, it's going to last you a very long time. As you can see, I can probably still continue putting miles on this shoe even though I've like officially retired it from my lineup. But all in all, just great piece of hardware right here to last you a very long time. Now, the case for the Pegasus Turbo. Let's say you don't want that carbon plate. You don't want a shoe that's stiff. You want something a little bit softer. You want that snap. You want that flexibility. You want something a little bit tighter in the toe box. This shoe would definitely start ticking off those boxes for those features that you might be looking for, with one caveat, right? And this is where we get into brand kind of discussions. So Adidas, again, highly respected running brand, very much in the up and up, if it already hasn't been, across many marathon majors. And yeah, it's just a brand that you kind of understand what you're going to be getting out of their daily trainer product and their race day product. The difference, I guess, if we had to compare it like in a Venn diagram, right? The area in the middle of that Venn diagram between the race day and daily trainer shoe isn't too vast, where you're going to get a completely different product than what you've been training in, for example. If that makes any sense, right? So like if you enjoy the daily training product, you're probably going to enjoy the race day product with some variations, right? So in like my case, I used the Adidas Pro 3 and I really enjoyed the return from that shoe, right? But there was differences in that shoe that weren't super different from the Boston 12, and as a result, there wasn't like too much pacing difference, I guess you can say. Like the shoe was just a smidgen faster, but it wasn't like revolutionary compared to like the Pegasus Turbo Plus and like the Vaporfly Next Percent in the Nike brand. But now with Nike, as I've discussed previously from YouTube commenters who made a really good point on this channel, is that with Nike products right now, especially right now, it's like, it's kind of a gamble of what you're going to get, right? Like, are you going to get a shoe that's in really good condition that's going to last you for a really long time, or are you going to get a defective product and you have to return it immediately because there's some kind of damage or some kind of glue sticking out or some kind of foam protruding in some weird direction? Like, it's hard to say, right? There's a production blip that needs to get fixed before we can start really relying on Nike's running product once more, because I think they really, I think starting in maybe 2021, at least for me, started really kind of turning their backs on the average running fanatic who grew up running in Nike products and then ended up switching to something like Hoka or Puma or Saucony as a result, or Adidas in this case, after seeing just a little bit of the betrayal that Nike had when they had a sort of a monopoly on the market. And then as the other brands started catching up with their Carbon Day, race day kind of shoes, the Vaporfly and the Alphafly started getting massive competition from those various products, you know. So that's kind of my thoughts there. So just be careful with the Nike product. It is great if you don't want the carbon plate, if you want that snap and you want something that you can run comfortably in. And yeah, the Adidas, again, tried and true. If you want that energy rod in the shoe, or the carbon plate, whatever you want to call it, and some reliability and some all-around ranges you can play around with, then I would probably recommend the Boston 12. I think right now, especially, the Boston 12 is probably priced a lot lower than the the Pegasus Turbo Plus. I think, I would imagine the shoe's probably like 140, 150 bucks. This is currently 180 because it is still new on the market. So that's also a consideration if you're trying to penny pinch, that $30 might go a longer way in this shoe than it might in this one. So it really is sort of your preference. But yeah, I think we'll leave the review here. Just all in all, I like both shoes. I've just spent way more time in the Boston 12. Not to see myself betray it right now. Like, I think I like the Boston 12 more at this stage in the game, despite like all the damage, miles, wear and tear I've kind of had in it. But yeah, it's just a great overall shoe, I think. Well, at least I know from my experience with it. But yeah, I think we'll just leave it here. So again, if you agree or disagree with the assessment, if you have any thoughts, comments, or any suggestions of any of that sort, let me know in the comments below. But we'll leave this here. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.